Yellowknife is also at risk due to a wildfire approaching the capital from the west. Thousands of residents have fled. Many of those forced out by flames have taken refuge in Alberta. Yellowknife's mayor says her community is on alert.
We're also setting up sprinklers around the community, and of course the territorial government's working on the actual fighting of the fire. But here in Yellowknife, we're focused on some of those precautionary measures and mitigation measures.
Day before, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it was darker than midnight. In the community, it was really kind of scary, and everywhere you looked, there was a red ring right around the whole town. So it was kind of freaky.
Hey, Shalom, brothers. This is Brother Ahawad of GMS Toronto, giving all praises, glory, and honor unto Yahweh, Ba'Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem, Rakakudash. Double honors unto the elders and elder apostles of GMS that rule well and that teach well, and to the brothers on the four corners of the earth doing this work in truth and in sincerity. Shalom. Hey, God don't like white people, man. And it's time of your judgment, you white people, you Caucasians, and the elites of you white people, right? The elites of you white people have done wickedness onto the society, and your wickedness have reached onto the clouds, and it's now time for your judgment, right? And the judgment is going to start with our people, with you Israelites. You Israelites, you've been getting judged, and now it's time for the hedge that has been around you so-called white people, who are you biblical Edomites, the people of the Most High's curse, right? Now the curses are going to start coming upon you, so-called white people. And this is just a part of your judgment, right? This is a part of your judgment, because the majority of the areas where this is happening, whether it be California, whether it be Canada is just on the list. But this has been happening in California for the longest, to where in the richest areas, meaning the areas which holds a lot of wealth, the nice houses are, where you so-called white people are away from black people. When you see these different news stories, right? Like when tornadoes touch down, whether it's in the South of America or whether it's in Canada, you might hear of destruction weather-wise, and it only happens in areas where you only see white people, and you're wondering, what area is that? Well, guess what? Those are the areas where you white people, you so-called white people, go to get away from so-called black people, but you can't get away from the Heavenly Father, because it's now time of your judgment, right? This is Lamentations chapter 4, verse 21. It says, "Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, that dwellest in the land of Uz. The cup also shall pass through unto thee, and thou shalt be drunken, and shall make thyself naked. The punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion. He will no more carry thee away into captivity. He will visit thine iniquity, O daughter of Edom. He will discover thy sins." Meaning that the same thing that happened to us as a people, and when I say us, I mean you blacks, Latinos, and you Native Americans who are the biblical Israelites, is the same thing that's going to happen to the biblical Edomites, who are you so-called white people. Not the majority, because you have Israelites that are calling themselves white people today, like you Irish, like you Italians, right? A lot of you Polish, a lot of you Germans, right? You go back to the biblical Israelites because of your forefathers, not because of the color of your skin. The color of your skin does not determine your lineage. This is Amos 1:11. "Thus said the Lord, for 3 transgression of Edom, and for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because he did pursue his brother with the sword, and did cast off all pity, and his anger did tear perpetually, and he kept his wrath forever. Right? So you Edomites, you're in rulership. You got the kingdom, right? You have all the power. You have everything. And guess what? You still have that wrath for Israelites. You still kill us. You still shoot us dead in the streets. You're still that same old devil. Right? It's not like you got the rulership and now you've become this righteous person. No, you're still the same wicked devil that you are from the beginning. And now it's your turn to be judged. Now it's your turn to feel that pain, that sorrow, that loss. This is Isaiah 47:1. Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. And that dust represents confusion. And the reason why you're a virgin is because you haven't been touched. You haven't been touched by violence, right? You haven't been touched by loss. You so-called white people, you elites, you Edomites, you have been a golden cup in the Lord's hand. And the Lord has been protecting you, right? Going all the way back to Cain, right? Where Cain was afraid because he's just like, yo, everyone shall slay me. But the Lord put a hedge around Cain because, right? The Lord didn't want anyone to kill him. And it's the same thing with you Edomites. You have a hedge around you. Well, that hedge is being taken away and you're in the time of your judgment. It says, sit on the ground. There is no throne. Why is there no throne? Because you're an Edomite. You're a slave. You're a slave. You are never supposed to be in this position of power to begin with. The reason why you're in this position of power is simply to punish the Israelites. It's just like a queen. When you see a queen on the throne, it's because there was no male heirs. You women are not supposed to be in rule. You're not supposed to see women in power. When you see a woman queen and you're, oh my gosh, oh, she's a queen. That's not supposed to be a thing. The only reason why that's a thing is when there's no male heirs. Right? And it's the same thing with you Edomites. The only reason why you're in power is because the Israelites sinned against the Heavenly Father and were being punished. And you're just being used. You're a means to an end. And then after that, you're going to be destroyed. And you're living in the time of your destruction. God does not like white people. This is Romans 9, verse 13. As it is written, Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated. So God does not like white people. Right? Now, the so-called white people that God does love are you so-called white people who go back to Israel. So you so-called Irish, you Italians, you Polish, you Germans, but you Germans who go back to the swarthy people, right? If you go back to so-called black people, right, or the Moors, then yes. And that you're an Israelite because some of the Moors were also Hamitic, right? So if you're a Hamite or you so-called Africans, if you're not an Israelite, then no, God don't like you either.
Many of the highways have been closed, and the territory is mounting what officials are calling the largest airlift in its history. Canadian Forces personnel are helping firefighters leave for safety. So far this season, wildfires have scorched more than 20,000 square kilometers, an area nearly 4 times the size of the province of Prince Edward Island. Hot, dry conditions not letting up across British Columbia, and that, of course, is fueling wildfires. 2 fires burning for weeks at Cathedral Provincial Park south of Kelowna roared to life. The fires triggered an evacuation alert for the park and surrounding areas. Both fires were sparked by lightning last month. 370 wildfires are burning across the province. Environment Canada is warning the situation could intensify in the coming days.
with that cold front coming through and the dry lightning potential, that's going to make things quite challenging, especially throw in those wind shifts and the gusty winds. It's not looking like a good situation come Thursday, Friday.
The Kamloops area is at especially high risk for the potential of new fires. BC is in the midst of its worst wildfires.
See, and everywhere you look, all you see is so-called white people, right? Because these are the areas that they live with their really good homes, with their really good housing markets, right? Where they get the highest prices for their homes, right? Lots of equity, lots of land. Okay, the Most High is running them out of those places, right? You're being destroyed because it's your time to go down. It's the time of your judgment. There's nowhere to hide, right? You guys thought you lived in these far places, far away from the urban areas or the cities, the metropolises, right? And all of these places, you're being driven out of there by the Heavenly Father. It's time for you to go down, Esau. And the Most High, the Heavenly Father, does not like you. He actually hates you. He hates your guts. Okay? That's why you are adverse to the sun. Right? The sun doesn't even like you. That's why you people burn. You see what happens to your skin in the sun? You're against nature, man. Okay?
Season, about 16,000 square kilometers of land have already burned. All right, let's return now to the wildfires burning in the Northwest Territories. Residents are being flown out to places like Edmonton, Fort McMurray, and Calgary. And that is where we find CTV's Austin Lee this morning. Austin, good morning to you. Tell us about the effort to get people out and how they are finding some refuge there in Calgary.
Oh, good morning, Marcia. It's obviously a very concerning situation given the fact that we're talking about transporting some long-term care residents to places like Calgary from the Northwest Territories. That's about 1,700 kilometers from Calgary to Yellowknife, for example. So obviously quite a distance. But when you're talking about long-term care residents, which will eventually be making their way to this city, obviously trying to find capacity becomes quite a challenge. And so, as you mentioned, Edmonton, Fort McMurray, Calgary, all will serve as places of refuge for those long-term care residents. Also, according to the Territory's health minister, they'll be trying to find capacity elsewhere in the Northwest Territories that have not been affected by these wildfires. But according to the government's website, right now, there are more than 235 wildfires that are currently burning in the territory. So that may pose some challenges. As for how many people will be transported here to Calgary.
This is Jeremiah 49:7. Concerning Edom, thus said the Lord of hosts, is wisdom no more in Teman? Is counsel perished from the prudent? And Teman is a representation of you Germans, right? Because you Germans are known for your wisdom, especially among the Edomites, right? You have German engineering. Right? Everybody knows when you want something that's made well, you want a German to do it. Honestly, it just is what it is. It says, is counsel perished from the prudent? Is their wisdom vanished? And when you look at these Edomites, you really and truly believe that they're retards. Because just the way that they do things, like here in Toronto, they've been building transportation on the Eglinton for years and years, just to come later on and to tell us that the track that they laid is too big or too small. I can't remember what they said, right? When you see the congestion of traffic, just with the way that they do things, the way that they set up traffic lights and stuff like that, you're like, these people have to be retards. There's something wrong with them mentally. Mentally, they lack intelligence. Verse 8, flee ye, turn back, dwell deep, O inhabitants of Dedan, for I will bring the calamity of Esau upon him, the time that I will visit him. And that's what we're watching. We're watching your visitation, you Edomites. And that's good for you, man. This is a good thing. Burn it down. If grape gatherers come to thee, would they not leave some gleaning grapes? If thieves by night, they will destroy till they have enough. But I have made Esau bare. I have uncovered his secret places, and he shall not be able to hide himself. His seed is spoiled, and his brethren, and his neighbors, and he is not. Right? So it's just time for the judgment of you Edomites. Why? Because God don't like you. Right? And with that, I'd like to give all praises, glory, and honor unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Makakwadash. Double honors unto the elders and elder apostles of GMS that rule well and that teach well. And to the brothers on the four corners of the earth doing this work in truth and in sincerity. Shalom. Till next time. Kwam Yasharallah.